going on, everybody? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, could Josh Metellus be getting a big-time extension soon? Well, he wasn't at OTAs, which was a little concerning, but maybe GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will extend number 44 in the coming days. So we'll break that down, and then also a Jalen Ramsey trade on the back half of today's show, as he is going to be dealt probably here in the next week. But before we do so, I just want to say thank you guys so much for 57,000 subscribers. We crossed over this milestone yesterday. I can't believe it. You guys are the best fans in the world. 57K. That's incredible. Maybe we'll hit 100K this time next year. But seriously, thank you guys so much. The support really goes a long way here. I love covering the Minnesota Vikings, and you guys showing support, definitely keeps me motivated. So if you guys aren't yet, hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date on the latest on your Minnesota Vikings. But so this is why we're talking about Josh Metellus today. So he was the only player that was not in attendance for Vikings OTAs, and this was on day 3 specifically. And Kevin O'Connell was talking after day 1 and 2, and he was like, yeah, I think we had near 100% participation, but the one guy that wasn't there was Josh Metellus. It was actually Craig Peters, who was at OTAs, who noticed Metellus not being there, saying this. Veteran cornerback Jeff Okudah was involved early in coverage, lining up opposite of Murphy in a 7-on-7 grouping that also included Pace and Blake Cashman at inside linebacker, Andrew Van Ginkel on the edge, and Harrison Smith and Theo Jackson at safety. Cornerback Isaiah Rodgers and all-rounder Josh Metellus were not at the voluntary session. So also Isaiah Rodgers not there. Don't know why he was not in attendance, but I think this has to do with Metellus wanting to get a contract extension. And how much could he get? It's probably similar to the deal that Cameron Bynum got in the $12 to $14 million range. And if that's the contract for Metellus, I think you have to do it. But in total, or just kind of my thoughts on this, you have to extend Metellus before the season or at some point, because you did let Cameron Bynum walk out that door in free agency. Now, would I have wanted to give Cam Bynum that $15 million per year? No. I'm happy the Vikings decided not to do that. But now, with that action, you almost have to have the reaction of extending Josh Metellus. He is too important to this defense. We know Brian Flores loves these versatile defenders, and he is the most versatile defender in the National Football League. I mean, playing strong safety, free safety, left corner, right corner, slot corner, left inside linebacker, right inside linebacker, middle linebacker, left outside linebacker, right outside linebacker, right defensive end, and left defensive tackle. He plays every single position for this Brian Flores defense, so you have to extend him, and hopefully this deal gets done before training camp. But the raw numbers for Metellus over the last 4 seasons, obviously he's a tackling machine. He hops down in that box a whole lot, and he's just a problem for opposing offenses. But he's also a playmaker. I would love to see the interception total maybe go up in 2025, or maybe he picks off 5 to 6 footballs. But, he is a de facto linebacker. Literally, he's one of those guys. He doesn't have a specific position on defense. He can just play whatever, Brian Flores is asking him to play. And, a big reason why the Vikings ran safeties 97% of plays last season is because he had a guy like Metellus, where, yes, technically he's a safety, but he's, playing a de facto linebacker role. And here is PFF grades from 2024. Very solid in the run defense. We know that's his MO. 84.3 overall grade, which was 10th out of 171 eligible safeties. Solid overall, ranking 57th in that group. Solid in the pass rushing department. Flores will blitz him, every once in a while. But coverage did struggle a little bit this past season at 55.1. But in terms of his snap alignment also in 2024, actually did not line up on the line of scrimmage as much as he did in 2023. I was looking at this. In 2023, he had over 200 snaps at the defensive line. This past season, only 62. But then also at box safety, that's where he's playing most of his time, 493 snaps there. And then the slot corner position, it's either Byron Murphy or Metellus playing that slot, so they'll kind of rotate out there. But another big reason why you have to extend him is just this safety room's thin. You got the 3-headed monster, I would call it, with Matelis, Smith, and Theo Jackson, really banking on Theo Jackson taking that next step after getting that extension. But you got a guy like Jay Ward there, then you got a couple of UDFAs and Powell and Bolden, but it's a very, very thin room. Maybe Jay Ward ends up being a sleeper. He took him in, I believe, the 4th round in 2023 out of LSU, so he could be a guy. But still, the big 3 of Metellus, Smith, and Jackson, you got to hope they're healthy for the entire season. And, maybe the Vikings decide to go out and get like a Justin Simmons, a Julian Blackmon, just to get another veteran in there and just another body to help out this defense, function for the season. But I'll ask you guys, what is the next move the Vikings need to make? Is it extending Josh Metellus, or are you willing to go out there and sign a guy like Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon? You guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Now, coming up, I do want to give you guys my final thoughts on trading for Jalen Ramsey, as he's probably going to be dealt within the next week. So just kind of want to go over the pros and the cons of this move, and we'll dive into that here in a second. But before we do so, I got to give a massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Now, get started at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off and use code VikingsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code VikingsChat50off at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Now, summer is here. More sun, more light. More time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That's where Factor comes in. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. And my favorite part of Factor, they arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle over summer and beyond. And here covering the Minnesota Vikings, we're still working long days in the summer. Sometimes I don't get off of work until 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and I don't always feel like making a home-cooked meal. That's where Factor has came in and has completely changed my life. You guys got to take advantage of it. I absolutely love Factor. I use it almost every single day of my life. So get started at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off and use code VikingsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code VikingsChat50off at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/VikingsChat50off. All right, let's dive into it. Jalen Ramsey. We've been talking about it a lot on the channel, and I just kind of want to give you guys my final thoughts because, the more I've dove into this, I have mixed feelings about it because, listen, if we're playing Madden and it's, you don't got to consider the contracts and you're just trying to build the most stacked team ever, yes, I would get up on here and say, yes, absolutely the Vikings need to trade for Jalen Ramsey. But the biggest doozy with trading for him is no doubt his contract. I mean, the team that trades for him is going to be on the hook for almost $90 million over the next 4 seasons. Now, there are some outs in this deal where after the 2025 season, you can kind of cut bait, but still, you'd be taking on that $21 million for the 25 season. And the Vikings right now, after the Garrett Bradbury post-June 1 cut was official, they have around $20 million to spend. But the Vikings cannot take on this contract. You would hope, and maybe, let's just say the Dolphins are thinking about getting like a 5th or 6th round pick for Ramsey. I would honestly rather have the Vikings give up a 3rd or a 4th, but have the Dolphins eat maybe 70, 80% of this contract. Now, in terms of Ramsey just on the field, if you just ignore the contract, he would be a huge addition to this Vikings cornerback room because if you just push Isaiah Rodgers, Mekhi Blackmon, Dwight McGlothern all down one spot, I'm feeling a whole lot better about this cornerback room heading into the season. Now, Vikings are clearly banking on Rodgers. They're banking on Mekhi Blackmon to step up and be a solid cornerback 2 and cornerback 3 next to Byron Murphy. But still, as it stands right now, I have concerns about this group because it is super thin. It's also super top-heavy with Byron Murphy, and they are Byron Murphy, like, let's just say, pulled hamstring away for a month for having that group being very, very thin, where then, opposing teams' number 1 wide receivers, like, you play the Bengals week 3, are you going to trust, like, let's just say Murphy has to win that game, and it's Isaiah Rodgers and Mekhi Blackmon going against Jamar Chase, T. Higgins? That's a bad matchup. So you are really banking on Murphy. I know the whole conversation this offseason, and I've been saying it a lot, the Vikings are putting a lot of just investment in Rodgers and Blackmon, but they're also putting a lot of investment in Murphy. Murphy in that 2023 season was a down year. 2024, he was awesome. He was a Pro Bowler. He was absolutely fantastic. But they are banking on Murphy to at least just maintain that level of play, if not take another step. And, I wasn't too concerned about the Vikings not drafting a corner, but I'm still shocked they didn't. Like, that was clearly the biggest need heading into the draft. And they decided to, put more investment in the offense, make J.J. McCarthy's life a lot easier with getting Donovan Jackson and Ty Felton in the 3rd round. So I still like those moves, but I'm still shocked, at least at their 6th round picks, them going Kobe King, Gavin Bartholomew, or even their 5th rounder, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. the fact that they chose a defensive lineman, a linebacker, and a tight end over just taking a flyer at the cornerback spot later on in the draft. So I think it's going to come down to this defense, and I still think they'll be very elite. I think they'll be a top 5 unit this year in the NFL. But you got to be elite up front. Like, this has to be a situation where Flores may have to adjust just his MO and his just, style of defense he plays instead of, being a very aggressive, blitz-heavy defense, and maybe just trusting the guys up front to get home with 4. Trusting in Allen, trusting in Hargrave, Gennard, Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner, that hellfire package where you're not bringing 6 or 7 on these big-time third down plays, because if you do, you're leaving Murphy, Rodgers, and Blackman with most likely just one-on-one coverage, no safety help over the top. So you have to be elite up front. I think the Vikings will be, but biggest concern for this roster as a whole heading into the season, definitely that cornerback position. But if you guys made it to the end of today's show, we appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did, give me a SKOL down below in the comments section. Make it look like US Bank Stadium on game day. And hit me up on Twitter, @PatSieps. See y'all next time. As always, SKOL Vikes.